Russia, armed with the cross and the Kalashnikov, has ruined and pushed hundreds of peoples to the brink of survival. Everyone who couldn't be forcibly turned into serfs was simply destroyed. For example, the Kalmyks. The latest census shows 23 of them forspoke their native language. One was killed.
Well, Russia can certainly congratulate itself on yet another significant internal success, truly congratulate itself on the successful and tragic genocide of yet another small northern people. They were called the Kalmyks. Like other small northern peoples, the Kalmyks were completely defenseless.
The Kalmyks are also one of these peoples. If they don't leave the pseudo-empire immediately, they'll share the fate of the Kalmyks.
It's simply impossible to list all of the more than 300 national and ethnic groups in Russia. I think you understand me.
Kalmykia is a republic in the Caspian Steppes. In terms of territory, Kalmykia is larger than Denmark, Belgium, the Netherlands, or Switzerland. But the population of the republic is very small, about 200,000 people. There are even fewer Kalmyks among them, and with each passing year, their numbers are dwindling.
Hopelessness, a ruined urban environment, and a broken down public transport system. If there's a ray of hope in cities like these, it shines from the airport when they announce boarding for a flight to Moscow.
And people keep leaving Kalmykia.
This is a huge tragedy.
Kalmykia is one of the poorest regions in Russia. Calling it depressed is putting it mildly. It feels like Moscow is deliberately turning a blind eye to this republic.
How little are we talking about? What's your salary?
Mine is small.
Well, how much? 15. You work for 15,000 a month?
As part of Russia, Kalmykia has degraded to the level of Somalia because Russians don't care about the Kalmyks or their problems. Half of them won't be able to show Kalmykia on a map at all.
I need you to show me the Republic of Kalmykia.
I don't know. Somewhere around here. Well, I think it's somewhere around here. I don't know. Let it be here.
But in Moscow, they immediately remember the Kalmyks when they need to gather fresh meat for the next war of conquest. Like other small peoples of the failed empire, the Kalmyks were among the first to be sent to be disposed of in Ukraine. Given the small population, recruitment and mobilization became critically dangerous for the Kalmyks.
About 300,000 specialists will be called up. Why is that, though? So this means that only about 1% will be drafted from the mobilization reserve. That's the first thing. Secondly, what I want to say. Actually, this is very important because that army has been on the front lines for almost half a year now. The guys need. Right now, we need to pull ourselves together and go help the guys, maybe relieve them somewhere.
The Kalmyks are speaking out against the Kremlin's militarist policies.
Anti-war rallies have been held in the Republic.
If 1,000 young men die out of a people of 150,000, it will be a catastrophe. And poverty is driving the locals to war even more than mobilization is.
It's a tough question, and no one in Kalmykia can give a definite answer to it. But my personal opinion is that, unfortunately, our republic will soon come to an end.
What is happening in Kalmykia characterizes the entire Russian pseudo-state. Moscow, in order to expand the Russian world and impose orthodox values, is sending Kalmyk Buddhists to the slaughter. No one can answer why the Kalmyks, who have been oppressed and destroyed by Russia for centuries, should fight for the Russian world. Not even the most rabid propagandist.
Well, because just because.
But no matter how hard Moscow tried, it couldn't turn the Kalmyks into obedient slaves. The Kalmyks are a warrior people, descendants of the Mongols, the Great Oirats. Muscovy encountered the Kalmyks in the 15th century and didn't even dare to fight them because the bast-chewed folks kind of sat down hard on their rubbery behinds when they saw the powerful, well-trained, and well-armed cavalry.
This happened in early 17th century. Kalmyk armies strictly controlled the situation in southern Russia.
Moscow asked to form a military alliance, and the Kalmyk Khans agreed. At that time, they still didn't realize what they were getting themselves into. For several hundred years, the Kalmyks helped Muscovy expand in all directions, and in return, they got genocide. The statehood of the Kalmyks was eliminated by Catherine II almost simultaneously with the destruction of the Zaporizhian Sich.
By 71, the infamous Catherine II, who actually destroyed the Cossacks, also destroyed the Kalmyk Khanate.
After Tsarist Russia, the Bolsheviks picked up the baton of genocide and carried out the mass deportation of the Kalmyks to Siberia in 1943 in an operation called Uluzi. The deportation took place in the winter in freight cars. So it's no surprise that the death rate from cold, hunger, and epidemics was incredibly high.
During the war, Stalin made mistakes. Russia suffered losses. They needed someone to blame, so they focused on ethnicity, saying these people don't fight well, rumors spread of traitors within. But the elders say there were no traitors at all. That's how it was.
Let's remember, the entire Kalmyk population is 3 times smaller than the population of Ryazan. But the Kalmyks held on, and they managed to survive. Under a massive repressive machine, they preserved their identity, faith, and culture, because among the Kalmyks there are no Navalnys, Yashins, or Latininas. Kalmyks will never willingly accept being a backward colony of a decaying empire.
The ultimate goal is still to build a free Kalmykia, free from everything, from imperialism, from having narratives that aren't ours forced upon us.
At first, the Kalmyks decided to part ways with Moscow peacefully. After the Tsars began to violate agreements by infringing on the freedoms, rights, and privileges of the Oirats, Khan Bashi gathered most of the people and led them beyond the Urals to their historical homeland, having first negotiated this with the Chinese Qing dynasty. The empire did not want to let go of potential serfs and sent troops in pursuit. In the end, unfortunately, they managed to forcibly bring back part of the Kalmyks.
Kremlin propaganda consistently presents the incorporation of occupied peoples as entirely voluntary, right? But, of course, not a single people joined Russia voluntarily.
This is already some kind of unhealthy, manic trait of the Russian regime. The Kalmyks were simply taken hostage. An entire people. Naturally, at the first opportunity in the early 20th century, the Kalmyks tried to send Moscow the same way as the family of Nicholas II. In 1917, the first Congress of Representatives of the Kalmyk people was held in Astrakhan. There, they declared the creation of an independent Kalmyk province. Once again, the Kalmyks decided to do everything peacefully and even remained part of Russia. And for that, once again, they suffered genocide in the 1940s, which we've already mentioned.
A strong national policy aimed at effectively erasing distinct national identities was, of course, clearly present under the challenging conditions of the Soviet Union.
After Moscow's annexation of Crimea and recognition of quasi-entities LPR and DPR, the Kalmyk people gained the right to declare independence. Why is it allowed for some, but not for others?
I catch thinking I've seen this somewhere before.
Putin himself shouted about the people's right to self-determination. It's just that the people of Donbass and Crimea don't actually exist, but the people of Kalmykia do.
That doesn't matter.
Kalmykia started to boil over, national movements became more active. The point of no return came in 2019, when Moscow appointed a bandit and terrorist from the DPR, Dmitry Trapeznikov, as mayor of Elista, the capital of the republic. It was just a slap in the face to the entire people. The people of Kalmykia took to the streets en masse, demanding that the thug and international criminal be thrown out of their home.
From the head of the republic, from the city council deputies. Get this Trapeznikov out of the city. This Trapeznikov business should have ended long ago. Don't treat the people of Elista and the people of Kalmykia like idiots. This person's reputation is so tarnished.
And the Kremlin caved. Trapeznikov supposedly resigned of his own accord. How do you like that, Russian liberals? Has the Kremlin ever changed its decisions after your marches? That's a trick question.
Oh, how convenient.
After the full-scale invasion in 2022, the Kalmyk people openly declared that they wanted nothing to do with the fascist wannabe empire. The Kalmyks don't want to die for Putin, Dugin, or Patriarch Kirill. At the Congress of the Oirat Kalmyk people, they adopted a declaration expressing Kalmykia's aspiration for independence.
The whole world saw how things really are, how the indigenous peoples of Russia, the small-numbered ones, actually live. What it's like to be under oppression when your language is your culture and it's being destroyed by the federal center. We want to create our own state where we will live by our own laws.
Moscow immediately labeled the Congress members as extremists and the declaration as illegal. It's interesting, Moscow considers the Kalmyks' independence a crime. But the declarations of the LPR, DPR, and Crimea, printed on an old printer under the barrels, are considered legal. And Putin even launched the special military operation to protect those declarations.
I have made the decision to conduct a special military operation.
Just think about the Kremlin's schizophrenia. Kalmyks, who are forbidden even to think about independence, are being sent to die for the independence of the DPR. And this applies to all the republics of the Federation.
More and more people started to believe, that is, to understand, that as part of Russia, the Kalmyk people, just like other non-Russian peoples, will never have it good.
It's pointless to look for logic in the Russian state. The president of Ukraine, who does not recognize the separation of the LPR, DPR, and Crimea, is called a fascist and a Nazi. But Putin, who does not recognize the independence of Kalmykia, is called a gatherer of Russian lands. The Russian pseudo-empire is the most vile, hypocritical, and criminal entity on Earth. To remain a part of it is to have no self-respect. That's why Kalmykia will definitely be free. And the Kalmyk people will not only survive, but will also thrive.
I would like to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated form to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. Our goal is not to mislead, but to highlight humor. Please take it with a smile.